It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the Hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th century, the interweb's first and still only podcast. My name is Jared.
My name is Matt.
Mike.
It's exhausting.
It is.
So tired, guys. I've not gotten any sleep.
What's the problem? Are you not taking your sleep tape?
There it goes again.
Okay,
Well, anyway, the guy upstairs has been playing drums like non-stop.
wait a second. Playing drums in the 25th century?
Yeah, he got some vintage drum set and he won't stop.
Man,
Hold
you know
on,
what?
but I did buy this sound dampener. So let me see if that'll work.
Okay, try the sound dampener.
Okay. I don't hear anything. I think it worked.
That's what we call prop comedy, everybody.
It's even better when you don't see the problem.
I know.
It's all up to your
Just
imagination.
visualize it. It's very sophisticated looking.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that your neighbor is being a loud pain in the butt.
Yeah, I think he's learning Metallica, but the worst part of it is he's learning Saint Anger.
Oh, no. That's unfortunate. And, it's funny, though, right? It's kind of a constant, right? It doesn't matter what century you're in. Your neighbors are always going to be loud and obnoxious.
Oh, man. Well, I'm pretty lucky. The people in my tube neighborhood here are generally pretty quiet. Oh, man. Well, anyway, I'm sorry about the noise, Mike. I hope that you're able to get some sleep with that sweet noise dampener that you have there.
I do too. Hopefully it'll work.
So, Mike, you were telling us a couple of days ago you might want to talk about some more Star Trek artifacts that you've acquired in our Hailing Frequencies segment.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Yeah, I got the complete James Blish novelizations of the episodes. And,
Those are very interesting.
Yeah, I have two number 7s because there was alternate covers for those. And I like the covers, so I kept both of them.
There you go.
For the uninitiated, the James Blish novelizations of this original Star Trek series are each episode of the show presented in a short story form, in a novelized form. So you get a prose version of the episode. And
you know what I noticed? You know what I noticed though?
What's that?
Like there was 12 total, and like in the first few, it's almost like each episode is a synopsis. But by the time you get like midway through, he's like doing full on stories.
How long are each story, each episode?
It varies. Some
probably-
is 10 pages. I've had some that were 30 to 40.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about some of these are that they are based on earlier versions of the shooting scripts. So these novelizations contain scenes that were deleted from
Oh, really?
from
Wait,
the episodes.
Now, when were these written?
Late 60s, early 70s is what I'm going to say. Because that's...
So we're not talking about like 1980s. He found these scripts
No.
and decided just to make some novels.
These
out of
were
them.
era specific to when the
Gotcha.
show came out. So...
Well, actually, that might be an interesting read because it's, you might get a little piece of the timestamp of the mentality of, the 60s there too.
Yeah, I haven't read all of them. I've read a few, but they are...
The first printing was 1967.
There you go.
Oh,
you're right.
that's during the original series.
Okay.
I remember having just listened to the audiobook version of These Are the Voyages. The James Blish stuff was part of their marketing, because that was one of the few official pieces of merchandise you could go to the store and buy, or were these books. Unless you wanted to buy a helmet with Spock printed on it and a police siren on top of it, which had nothing to do with Star Trek.
That prop almost made it to air, by the way.
Oh man, that is one of the greatest.
You know, when they were making Spock in the pilot, they're going the pointy ears or the siren hat. What's going to be his signature?
It's, unfortunately, the siren hat lost, but
man. And we all lost too.
Yeah,
Well, the truth though is those are just other toys they slapped Star Trek
a
stickers.
Star Trek sticker on. Yeah, which that whole thing is.
Was that a Mego toy?
No,
that siren Mego. Oh man,
no. The
Mego was the
Migos
best.
were actually
Real figures
based on the stuff from the show.
One of my favorite memes is they took that helmet and actually put it on Leonard Nimoy from an episode.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
It's
and
so-
they also put it on Zachary Quinto from one of the newer movies, and
Yep.
it's completely awesome. I don't know. I'm sure it fetches a grand price on eBay still in the
Oh,
box.
I'm sure. You know, speaking of Star Trek, we kind of were talking earlier in our little thread that we like to chat on about all the different movies and the like the practical shots and our favorite effect shots, and it was interesting how I think arguably aside from Star Trek V, it's hard to pick a favorite. I mean, each movie's got so many gems that you could pick from. You know, as far as like great shots of starships and
you're talking something that could be an episode unto itself. Probably.
I think we're teasing a future episode.
Why
right
don't
now.
we tease that? Yes, but it's something that, without getting too into the weeds, we were also talking about is, these were models, giant models, these ships, back in the day. These models were used for years, continuing into the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine eras.
It's amazing.
They would reuse these models, but one thing they didn't ever reuse was the model for the Enterprise and Enterprise A. The Constitution refit model. They thought about bringing that back a couple of times in Next Generation, but they thought that's the Enterprise, and we need to keep it the Enterprise.
That's a good call.
call.
I agree with that.
It did show up in Shattered Remnants in the Borg episodes where Captain Picard was, where he was kidnapped. It did show up in the wreckage of the ships that fought the Borg, but it never showed up just as a... They did use the Excelsior model quite a bit. And they've actually incorporated that into part of the lore. The Excelsior ships were like the backbone of the Federation fleet for almost 50 years, which is sort of like our it's analogous to our Navy today. They're still using Nimitz class vessels, which were launched in the
absolutely.
mid-70s.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, I can't wait to talk about this topic more in depth because, as we said in the podcast before, the Enterprise especially is our favorite ship of all time.
Yes.
But the effects in Star Trek are something really special. So
Yeah. Hey,
we're
stay
gonna-
tuned.
We'll deep dive. But you know what we're going to deep dive into right now? Something I think that each of us had some strong reservations about. I'd say we were all hopeful about it, but I think we've been kind of burned recently with some streaming shows, and I think we kind of took this with a, we were
Giant
kind of,
grain
well,
of salt, like an atlas.
Well,
and I'll tell you why. We're talking about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power on Amazon Prime.
Let me interject real quick. I think we all have the same goal here because this show is getting a lot of hate.
I haven't heard anything about it.
And so I'd like to say that we're going to give it like a fair assessment.
No, we are going to separate the thing from the noise around the thing.
This is what we think. We like what
And
we like, and we don't care what other
And I'll
people
tell you,
like.
just to warn you, there will be spoilers ahead.
Oh, crap. Prop comedy time. Oh, crap.
There it is. What? All right.
Okay, I got the spoiler Walkman. Hang on. I'm going to
He's
hit
old,
the... Okay, let me see.
Frodo of the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom.
Battery must be almost dead. It's all warped sounding.
Okay, hang on a second. There's no batteries in it.
Yeah, that's
but
probably why.
it's solar powered, 25th century. Here we go.
Nice.
That's it. Yeah. Okay.
We're spoiling so far episodes 1, 2, and 3 for you. So if you have not watched Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power yet, you can listen and learn, or you can turn us off and watch. But either way, we're going to spoil everything. But I was saying that right now, at least for me, and I know Mike and Jared, I think you too, the Lord of the Rings series, including The Hobbit, is a very special set of books.
Why don't we, Matt or Mike, you start this. Go around the table and tell what is your experience with and what is your knowledge of the lore of Tolkien and his Middle-earth saga.
Okay. Mike, why don't you kick it off? I think you're the Gandalf of the group.
Confound you, Mike.
Bilbo Baggins. Okay, so I think my first exposure to Lord of the Rings may have been The Hobbit when it was on a TV, the animated version, when I was a kid. Although I didn't really know what it was. You know, it was just like a cartoon that was on like evening. It was like an evening presentation, so that was unusual for a cartoon, so it kind of made it stand out. But I mean, I guess I remember liking it. I mean, Gollum stands out, but he looked like a big frog in that version. But his voice, man, the voice was really creepy in that animated version. And then when I was in elementary school, we went to the gymnasium one day and they showed us Ralph Bakski's Lord of the Rings. But I don't think we watched the whole thing for some reason. But I remember it really stood
Probably
out
for the
to
best.
It stood out to me because I was really enjoying it. And I was really surprised because it was really violent. Like people were dying. And aside from Johnny Quest, I think that was like the first cartoon where I'd seen that level of violence. Like there's one part, I think, when the Hobbit stabs an orc in the foot with a knife. So, and then like in middle school, I read The Hobbit and I really liked it. And then high school, I read Lord of the Rings, really liked it. I was never able to really read any other fantasy because of that, because it just kind of ruined it for me. I kind of was like, everything I read, I tried to read that was fantasy. I was always comparing it to Tolkien. So anyway, through the years, I read it a couple more times. And then when the movies came out, they just blew me away, man. They were just really, really, just really great. I've loved the Lord. I remember when we saw the Fellowship of the Ring, the next day we were at work and everyone was talking about it. You knew it was something special. So I guess that kind of like really reignited my love. I read the books before the movie came out, and I think before each movie came out, I'd reread it again. And then I was really into the making of. I still have all the making of books that they published. And then The Hobbit came out. I really liked The Hobbit. I know a lot of people didn't, but I also I've read the Silmarillion. There's Unfinished Tales. I really enjoyed the Silmarillion. I know a lot of people didn't like it. It's a little dry, and it is. It's like basically a book of tales. And it's the history of the elves. But anyway, so I'm familiar with the history that took place before The Hobbit. I mean, I'm not by no means like a Tolkien scholar or anything like that. So, and I've been reading some of those new books, that Children of Hurin, which is extremely depressing. Anyway, the point is I really dig this universe. I love the movies, but I consider the movies separate. Like, the changes they make don't bother me because, I like the books, I like the movies. They're two different things. That's where I am with that. So going into this, I was very dubious. Initially, I was excited, but then being disappointed by so much stuff, then I almost was to the point where I'm not even going to watch it. But then I decided to watch it, and that's where we are there for me.
Matt, what about you? Where are you on the Lord of the Rings level up scale?
I mean, I think I'm a few levels behind Mike. I haven't got enough coins to upgrade yet, but no, I started Lord of the Rings just like he did. I mean, I remember watching the cartoon, The Hobbit, and I specifically remember The Hobbit, and I remember Return of the King from the cartoons. I don't remember the others.
I didn't see
as a
Return of the
kid.
King until after the
I just remember
movies came out.
Frodo of the Nine
Fingers at the ring of doom.
And I remember there's some standouts. Like I remember the Smaug speech. With that fantastic. I don't know who voiced Smaug in the original Hobbit cartoon movie, but it was great.
I am Smaug. I kill where I wish. I am strong, strong, strong.
And when I read The Hobbit, I hear that voice for Smaug. But I saw The Hobbit, and but I forgot about it. And it just wasn't part of my life. I was reading like a lot of sci-fi in middle school and high school. I had a fantasy series that I was really into, and I didn't really pick up Lord of the Rings again until college, and I'd forgotten about it. And I started reading The Hobbit, and it all I'm like, oh man, that's where this came from. That's where, oh yeah, it all started kind of coming back to me. And so I read The Hobbit, and I read Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I think I probably read it maybe like 5 or 6 times straight through. So I'm fairly familiar with the books, but I haven't read them recently. I did like Mike when the movies came out. I read the books, I think after the movie, because I kind of wanted to go into each movie like a little more fresh. But I'd reread the book after the movie came out. So I read the books again after the movies. And, I did that DVD chase, when the Lord of the Rings, they may have been one of the first DVD sets that came out that really expanded the DVD horizons on like featurettes and behind the scenes stuff. I mean, Jared, I think we sat and watched like on the first DVD set, there was like hours and hours of those featurettes that we wound up watching. Yeah. And, of course I would buy the next expanded series and then the platinum series and then the platinum expanded super golden, ruffled series. And
then you threw them all in the dumpster.
Throw them out, man. You know what it was? I was addicted to physical media. I had to break it. But no, I did that chase. But that's I didn't read the Silmarillion. I tried reading it and I put it down. So I might pick it back up after this series.
Richard Boone
was
Richard Mog. Boone. I don't know.
Oh, there
he was a bunch of stuff. He was in a bunch of stuff back in the day.
Yeah. So my knowledge is pretty good, but I don't have a working knowledge of the past, like where this series is landing. I kind of know just from the background of the books a little bit. I remember names, but as far as like these events, I'm going in it pretty fresh. I'm pretty excited. So I have a pretty good open mind about it. They're not treading too much on familiar territory with me, so I'm not that worried about them offending me because I don't really know that much about it.
Yeah, that's the way I am. I think I said to you guys when I was watching the first episode, I was like, I don't know enough about the lore to be pissed off about what I'm seeing. So right. Should I be pissed off? So, I've read The Hobbit twice. I've listened to the audiobook once. I read Fellowship and Two Towers before Fellowship came out in 2001. I have started Return of the King about 5 times in the last 20 years. And something always happens. I don't dislike it. It's just something happens, and it's like, okay.
It's a dense book. It is dense.
But that's about it for me. I own Lost Tales and the Silmarillion as well, but I haven't cracked them. So, I'm not like I had to call my dad after these first couple episodes, and he was telling me the stuff that they did and kind of what's going on because he's all
your father really took a deep dive into the lore, didn't
he? He told me, he's like, okay, son, here's what you got to do. If you have a copy of the Silmarillion, he goes, read the letter that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote to his friend that's in the front of the book. He goes, that'll give you a good background, because it's basically Tolkien writing his buddy and giving him a Cliff Notes version of Middle Earth. And my dad said, he goes, that's a great primer, and that'll kind of give you everything you need to go into this. And I haven't read it yet, but because I wanted to see how the show would hit me. And of course, like, it goes without saying, I've seen the 6 Peter Jackson Middle Earth movies numerous times.
Right.
So, and that's where most of my knowledge comes from. So I just wanted to see how the show would hit me sitting down and watching it. And, so let's break into it here.
Well, to your point, the thing about the show is it's not really anything that's been written. It's referencing stuff that's been written. Mm-hmm. It's not the Silmarillion. It's like the time period between the second and third age. And from what I understand, they didn't have the rights to the Silmarillion.
They don't. The only thing they have the rights to are the appendices of Return of the King.
Makes no sense. But
and did you hear this other no-name company swooped in like a month ago and bought the rights to everything? Like some video game company in Scandinavia or something.
Yeah.
What the heck is that?
It's crazy, isn't it?
Well, there's really nothing to be mad about as far as. Well, I'm just gonna the elephant in the room. I'm just gonna say we can touch on it briefly. We don't have to dive into it because I mean I don't really think it's that big a deal. Is the race thing? People aren't happy about basically there being black elves. Okay, is it Tolkien accurate? No, not really. But is it a big deal? I mean, as long as the actors can act and as long as it feels organic, I don't care.
Let me tell you. So after watching 3 episodes, I feel that it has been really well cast.
I think the female dwarf is great. I love her. I think she's great.
I haven't found a speed bump yet of any of the acting or casting choices that really has made the show like unwatchable.
Not unwatchable. I agree. Not unwatchable. Definitely. We're not talking about
here's
the third
Here's
sister
the elephant
acting.
in the room, and she's white as snow.
You mean Galadriel?
She is. If she's the lead of this series, they're going to have to figure it out because so far she is.
They did get a smile out of her in the 3rd episode,
which was horrific. That was, oh my gosh. I thought, is that Galadriel or is that like a witch or something? What in the heck?
Oh, you talking about the slow-mo on the horse?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a lot. But
she does something that really irritates me, and I can't unsee it now, is when she talks, she very rarely separates her teeth. Like she's
talking through clenched teeth all
like
the time.
This, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Well, I'll tell you, in the movies, Galadriel, the actress,
Kate Blanchett,
she was very stoic as well. Mm-hmm. And
obviously that's what they're going for.
I don't think that this is a big departure, and I think that they're probably not letting this actress really expand too much. I think they're trying to stay within that paradigm of who she was in the movie. And that's okay, because she's not bothering that much, because there's a lot happening around her. And there's a lot happening.
She's not a deal breaker.
And I'll tell you this, I think my favorite character in the show so far is, was it Arondir? The quote-unquote black...
No.
Oh, the black elf.
The elf.
He is phenomenal. I love watching the scenes with him. Every scene with the elves so far in the field, I think have been my favorite so far in the show.
I like him too.
But let's talk about. I mean, look, guys, this show they hyped this show up as being the most expensive show ever made, and I'll tell you this: they're not disappointing in the visuals.
Well, every episode has the budget of a feature film.
It is insane. I think this is exactly how I wanted the show to look, and I'm not disappointed at all with any of the styling, any of the looks, any of the set pieces, anything they've set up. I think it's beautiful. I think it looks great.
I know it's not like officially part of the cinematic universe, but I mean, come on.
It's pretty amazing.
When you look at Numenor, it's Gondor.
Well, yeah. Well, see, I like that. I like how they styled where they're tying in that
They're-
architecture back to Numenor.
You see
Yeah,
the
because they're the descendants.
the Minas Tirith-like
Exactly.
structure.
Exactly. I
and-
love it. And, I just learned something today. You know the opening sequence where they do the title and the Rings of Power, the whole
Yes.
title sequence? That is done almost entirely with practical effects. Almost none of it is CGI.
Oh wow!
So next time you watch it, all the molten stuff going through the cracks, everything happening, it's all done with practical effects. I saw the whole making of the opening. It was very cool.
And that's where the only place we hear Howard Shore, who
So far, yeah.
returned to do the main title.
So the show so far, I said this, as grand as it's kind of set up to be, and as expansive and as beautiful as the scenery is and the design, I still feel, because the movies were very epic, because they followed the books, and the books themselves are very epic.
But the movies are condensed.
They are, but I'm feeling this as a drawn out show. It feels, as I said to you guys, it feels to me small, but it's trying. But my mind is wanting it to be bigger. Does that make sense? Like I feel like this should be more epic in my head, but I haven't felt the epic quality of it yet. I still feel like these are just great, interesting stories happening in a pretty cool looking world.
Well, I think the thing is,
But it's building. It's building.
TV is always TV.
Yeah.
It's just something about it. It can never escape being TV. Having said that, I do think the Numenor stuff is pretty epic.
I agree.
I think as far as the sets, they're, obviously very meticulous, but they still have that TV feel. I don't know. It's hard for it to get away from that. Having said that, I think it's still Casa Doom looks great.
Yeah, that looks fantastic.
That looks like straight out
amazing,
of a movie. Also, another character they introduced, I don't know if you caught it, is Celebrimbor. You know who that is?
No.
The elf that Elrond was traveling with.
Oh, yes. My dad talked about him a little bit.
He's the one who makes the rings.
He makes the rings.
Right. So
And he told me what happens to Numenor as well.
It falls
sinks,
into
right?
It basically becomes Atlantis.
It's Atlantis, yeah. So there's a they're teasing a lot of different things going on right now, and there's a lot of, and it's great how they're doing it, and especially if you're familiar with the lore, there's a lot of people going, well, wait a minute, that could be this person or that could be that person. So like right now, we have some characters that are mysterious in the show as of episode 3. Meteor Man
Yes.
being probably the most obvious, yet maybe not so obvious of the bunch.
I remember. It seems like in my brain, I remember that character mentioned in the books, but I don't remember specifically who it is.
So
I think that's from the books. I could be
okay, so
making
who
it
do we think the Meteor Man is?
Well, my dad said Tom Bombadil.
Okay, so Tom Bombadil is definitely possible.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that based off of the books?
It's just kind of what he thinks. I don't know.
The obvious
It's
one is
Gandalf.
Gandalf.
Well, hold on. What age is this taking place?
The second age.
This is after the second age is ending, right before the third age starts.
Okay, but the end of the third age is when Frodo destroyed the ring.
Aragorn is crowned.
That's it. Okay.
At the end of the third,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I could be wrong, but I think I've heard that Gandalf in lore appeared at the beginning of the third age.
Which would
Okay.
that would be the right time frame.
Now, in the second age, Sauron was already in Middle Earth.
Well, that was the other one. I was thinking it's either Gandalf or Saruman.
So
Yeah.
it could be Sauron.
Could be.
And it could be Tom Bombadil, but Tom Bombadil is a complicated character because he was so limited in what he did in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
No,
Or I mean
Lord
in
of the Rings.
in Fellowship.
Well, here's another thing with Tom Bombadil is super, super powerful.
Yeah, of course. And there's a lot of he could be in this universe God.
So you bring him into the story, you got all kinds of problems because you got basically like Superman. What
So I don't
can
think
he
it's
do?
Tom Bombadil. I
Okay.
think it could be. I think the obvious choice is it's Gandalf. I think it could be Sauron. However, there are theories that it's Sauron himself as a shapeshifter.
Well, because Sauron's already been. He was defeated with Morgoth, right?
Yeah, but he comes back. He's
Yeah,
still
come on,
alive.
Yeah.
I don't think
So-
it's Sauron. I don't think it is.
There was also another theory that Halbrand, the castaway with Galadriel,
Yes, I've heard that.
could also be Sauron, but I don't think that's the case either.
I don't know. I do not know.
But we have a lot going on in this show.
I was surprised that they
Galadriel-
brought in Isildur. I was surprised by that.
You know what? I think it's great. I mean, it took me a second to realize that his father was the ship captain,
Yes.
and
He mentions his son Isildur. Pretty cool.
I didn't realize, and that becomes the king of Numenor.
He
So-
becomes king of Gondor. I'm not sure if he becomes the king of Numenor.
I think he was king of Numenor, but I could be wrong. But either way, you're starting to put all the familiars together,
Yes.
and you can start to finally have a touch point to where you're like, oh, I know where these people go and what happens to them.
In the latest episode, they talk about what I guess is the beginnings of Mordor.
Yeah, that's where they're going. Yeah,
The backup plan in case Morgoth
and
is
Gondor is
defeated.
not yet established.
No,
Okay.
it is not, because they're the descendants of Numenor.
Right. And just remember that it is Narsil, which is the sword that his father, Isildur's father carries. Isildur. Throw it in. So that's his father's sword. So maybe we saw that sword handed to him in this episode, even though it looks different than what was in the
Narsil?
movies.
I don't know.
Yeah, so that might be Narsil that was handed to him in the third episode.
I don't know.
Because it was a very deliberate scene of this sword being handed to him.
Okay, let's talk about our thoughts on the show itself.
Sure.
Like, here's my view. Okay, I don't hate it. I can't say I love it. I'm interested, and I feel like if they're building towards something and it pays off, I'll be very happy with it. But if they don't pay it off, then it's going to feel like kind of a waste of time.
So is this show already slated for multiple seasons, or is this a
Yes.
one and done?
5.
5 seasons.
But
Jesus,
eight episodes a season.
All right.
So 40 episodes.
So I'll tell you, I thought episode 1 was a bit of a slow burn.
Yes.
But I really did enjoy episodes 2 and 3 quite a bit.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, I'm excited to watch the next episode. So I mean, I'm in the show now. I mean, I definitely am making it a priority watch for myself. It's not something I'm gonna forget about. Maybe like I'll binge later. I'm gonna tune in and watch this show.
It's definitely not terrible. To me, it actually does feel very Tolkien-ish, because if you read Tolkien, I mean, Tolkien is very slow. I mean, if you read The Fellowship of the Ring, it takes several chapters for the hobbits to even get out of the Shire.
Yes.
I think this is completely in the.
It's not like the
even
movie where they're like cross the river and they're out.
No, but you know what? I think it's still. I think Peter Jackson captured the essence very well. But I think this feels right. I think they captured the look, and I think the music is fitting, and I think the scenery is great. I like the cast, and I'm not. It's like what you hear with like super Star Wars embittered fans that have nothing nice to say about Star Wars anymore. That's the same kind of fandom that came out blasting this, because to some people, Lord of the Rings is that's their life. That is their property, and you can't. No matter what they do, to what show they make, what movie comes out after that, it's never going to be good enough. So you have to automatically dismiss the front end haters on this, and you got to wait for the series to kind of run its course a bit, and then you can, I think, get a true read on it, because you can't trust the front end. You can never trust the front end.
People take great joy in not liking stuff.
The people can monetize this and make a lot of money off not liking things.
It's very true.
And the guy that we watch is the Critical Drinker, who is actually a very smart satirist, I think. But he also falls into the this is gonna suck and blah blah blah. But like I said, these people have a vested interest in not enjoying it. I mean, people would not click on a video if he said, oh man, this last episode was pretty awesome. So that's where it's up to you as the viewer to make your own decisions, which is what I think we always have held true to that.
Yeah, I think so.
Watch it for yourself and decide if you like it. We don't have any angry fans to appease on the hyperspace.
But I have to tell you, guys, I mean, these past couple years, I mean, what a renaissance of entertainment. Think about the level of visual, stuff that we're getting these days on television. That stuff that we'd only be able to see in the movies. We're getting a whole slew of stuff these days of this unbelievably high-budgeted, like, extravaganza right on your TV that we get to watch. Now, whether it's great, average, or just terrible, the fact that we get to see these things is amazing to me. Like, a show that looks like this could never have happened 10 years ago.
No, not even 10 years ago.
It's just like, it's amazing. I mean, and to think that my kids are going to have access to all these amazing things. And if this show pays off, the fact that they're going to be able to watch this and like enjoy it, maybe, to me, it's like, this is unbelievable. Like, I'm going to show them the Hobbit cartoon that I watched to get introduced. They're going to be like, what the hell are you watching?
What is this?
So I mean, like, it's unbelievable what they're making today. And it's, for better, for worse, for succeeds or doesn't succeed, it's only setting the bar higher and higher and higher and higher for the next production. So it's amazing.
To your point about there being so much out there now, I think I probably am in the sorry, I probably am in the negative Nancy camp. I think a lot of it now. I think there's a big difference to getting something periodically and getting something every week. And I think it's really damaged the quality. That's why I'm kind of surprised that I don't hate this, because I really feel like the writers are trying to build something, and I guess that's making me feel a little more generous to it, not being super action packed. Mm-hmm. And I think it's been a long time since we've had something that was like genuinely thoughtful. If that's, I don't know. I don't want to give it too much. I don't want to give it too much credit too early.
But deliberate.
Yeah. So I think it'd be cool to revisit this once the last episode. I think 3 in is a good gauge. It's not terrible, and it has a lot of promise. I think the orcs look great. I like that they're albinos. Kind of explains them not living in the sun.
And how they're tunneling through the earth, trying to.
It's cool.
And how wargs disembowel people.
Yeah,
in
that
graphic
was
fashion.
Unbelievable.
It's pretty amazing.
But see, I like too that he used that as a reason to look over because they were trying to we got to look over the hill. And he's like, I'll chop down the tree, which from when he first says it, it seems very sad. But when he goes up there, you realize what he's doing. He's doing exactly what they were trying to accomplish. So I thought that was good writing.
Well, to that point, think about it, right? They don't have rights to the Silmarillion. They have rights to the appendices. So what they're really doing is they're creating a story within a very kind of very limited framework with some just, key points and pillars that they're using to stand the story up with. And they're filling it in with their own creative stuff. So to their point, so far, I think it's pretty great writing. It's pretty, they have a good direction that they're going, and they're filling it in pretty nice so far. So, Mike, to your point, if they land the plane and they land it well, this show could be a real big hit. It could be a real winner. And if it just drags out and becomes a bore fest, it's going to be a tough one to watch.
I can't imagine that they spent $1 billion and said, we'll just see what happens.
I mean, listen, how many times have you seen it where you get super high budgeted stuff? Look, this kind of production with this kind of money behind it has a lot of cooks in the kitchen and a lot of opinions.
Which could be a problem.
Yeah, that's what I mean. A lot of opinions, and especially if season 1 is a massive hit, viewership is already huge on it. But if it gets great reviews and amazing, and people are really waiting for season 2, there's gonna be even more cooks in the kitchen. So it's gonna be like, let's see if they can hold it together. Let's see if this series can make it to the end and be a winner. Because it might be a winner for the first 2 seasons, but let's see if it can hold on and really land the plane. I hope it does.
The only thing, and Mike alluded to this, it's kind of a red flag, is that they don't have the rights to so much. I mean, I thought about this, and it's almost like if somebody wanted to make a Star Wars show, and all they had the rights to was Rogue One. Well, then they'd make a show like Andor. But you can't talk about Darth Vader. You can't talk about Palpatine. You are here, and this is what you
just return to Endor. With,
I don't think
Brindley.
it's that limited. I think it's more like you have the rights. The only thing you have the right for Star Wars is you have, Jedi, Force, Sith, and you're building off that. I think in some ways they have point A and they have point C, and they're in point B, and they have the skeleton, so they can do whatever they want as long as the bridge meets on both ends. They'll be fine if that makes sense.
I can't imagine they spend that kind of money and not have a roadmap.
Oh, I'm sure they do. That's why I feel like it's so. The pacing is the way it is. That's why I'm like, okay, they're going somewhere. They got a plan.
I have to imagine. I mean, they may have. They definitely have outlines of every episode, and they may even have scripts.
Right.
But I don't think that they're rolling the dice on this. So
I think after 3 episodes, I think it's fair to say at least the Hyperspace recommends the show so far. And I
recommend you watch it and you make your own judgment. If you like it, watch it. If you don't.
So far, I'm pretty entertained. I'm looking forward to the next episode.
I would agree. And like I said, and I'm sentimental this way, but my dad texts me at 5 a.m. on Friday morning. Have you watched it yet? Dad, I just got home from work like 2 hours ago. No, I haven't. So I enjoy it.
I love that your dad became such a Lord of the Rings buff. It's great.
Oh, man, the streaming shows, I get no rest. He's like, I mean, everything. So when's Andor come out? Okay, all right. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So,
we might have to get your dad on the podcast.
Oh, my gosh. Holy cow.
We might have to get him after each season for the recap.
You know what? For these Lord of the Rings shows, it might be interesting to get his wizened perspective. So I don't know. We'll see. If we get David on for some Lost episodes, we'll see.
He said he'd come on if we didn't spoil.
Oh, of course.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
All right. Well, so I look forward to circling around and after the last episode and see what we have to say.
Okay. Well, then let's meet back here when the season's over and see where we stand.
But right now, for me, it's a thumbs in the middle.
Okay. I'm a thumbs up guy right now.
Yeah, I think I'm also thumbs up.
All right.
And before we sign off, we gotta crank up the Karate Kid Virgin again because I got to talk about season 5 of Cobra Kai. Good grief, Mike! I think
awesome.
You'll be very happy.
I need to watch it.
Oh my god!
I keep forgetting about it.
I remember what you said at the end of season 4. You said, "Look, if Daniel and Johnny get together and break up again, I'm done with this." So I'm just saying, season 5 is your bag.
It's ludicrous and it's great.
Have you seriously never owned a computer before?
Yeah, I'm not a nerd.
Season 6, folks, is rolling on. You're going to get great reviews like this. You're going to get our opinions, whether you like it or not. And we are here to help you and the 25th century get back on course, guys. We've got episodes coming down the pipe for you. We've got possibly the one-chip challenge that we keep avoiding, but we
You're
might
breaking
get
up.
to it. Exactly. But every Monday, folks, every Monday we'll be dropping an episode, so don't go anywhere. Tell your friends, subscribe, visit our website, and we will see you in the 25th century.
Century.
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.